Replit is one of the most agentic and secure vibe coding platforms. And in this video, I'm going to share 5 steps to get started with Replit. This video is for people who are new to vibe coding or people who have experience building with tools like Bolt, Lovable, or other vibe coding tools and want to make the jump into Replit. Thank you so much to Replit for sponsoring this video. Click the link in the description to build alongside me, and you can start for free with Replit's free plan. So the first thing that you need to know about Replit is getting the initial prompt right. And there's a few tools that Replit gives you to get started and put you on the right track. And this is something that I think makes Replit stand out a little bit from some of the other vibe coding tools. So first, on the left side, you can choose what type of app you want to build. So you can have it on auto and the agent will choose for you, or you can select modern web app, interactive data app, 3D game, or a Python web app. So in this case, for this example, I want to build a modern web app. So I'm going to say web app, and it's going to be made with React and Node.js. Then after I create my initial prompt, I'm going to be able to use the improved prompt feature. So let's jump in and do that. So I just built out a simple prompt. I want to create a to-do list application, but to put a spin on it, I want it to have a nice pastel color design and is fun for users to use. So I'm just curious what the AI agent is going to come up with that. Now, what I'm going to do before starting the chat is click this improve prompt button. Now, what this is going to do is Replit is going to use its own systems to optimize your prompt and improve it. This is something I recommend doing because it's going to give you a better result. So let's see what it changed it to. It just made this a little bit more detailed with core features, adding new tasks, marking them as a complete, and some other features as well. Visual reference inspired by Notion's gentle aesthetics and Todoist playful interactions, known for their user-friendly and visually pleasing task management interfaces. So I like how it did that. But what I'm going to add is let's take this design inspiration to the next level. Just going to add that as well to give it a little bit more to work with. It has a style guide with some pastel colors and a design guide as well. So this is really nice. It added core features, visual references, and a style guide. So just by doing that, you're going to get a much better result than doing the initial prompt I had on its own. And this brings us to the second thing you need to know about Replit is that it has a whole planning stage before it actually goes into the building stage. This is really important to understand and something that is actually really important even if you were building an app without AI coding. The planning is just as important as the building, because if you don't know what you're building and plan it out, then the result is not going to be very good. But what's really nice about Replit's planning feature is it has this whole interface to basically see all the features that it wants to build in this version. Then on the right side, it's basically designing a visual preview, which we'll get to in a second. And then once that's done, we can either modify the plan or approve the plan. So let's let it get to this visual preview, and then let's decide what we want to do. This is really cool. So it created this visual preview, and I think this actually matches pretty well to the kind of initial prompt that I wanted. Now, of course, we could just approve the plan, but I want to show you what editing looks like. So if I want to edit the plan, all you'd have to do is just message the agent, tell it what you want edited. If you want to change the tasks in the initial version, the initial features, change the design, anything that you want to do, you can do that. But in my case, I actually like what it did. So I'm going to say approve plan and start. So now we're in an interface that you might be familiar with if you've used other AI coding tools before. So on the left side, we have our chat, and on the right side, we have our visual preview. But there's a few important things about Replit that separate it. And this brings me to the third thing that you need to know about Replit, which is that the database is fully integrated. And this is something we're going to ask the AI to set up for us as soon as it finishes this first initial version. And here we are with our first version of the app. So it made some updates to that first visual preview, and we can add a task and actually see it live being added. So right now it's not using a database. It's just all being stored basically to the browser. So what I want to do is ask for it to create that database. So it's asking, does the pastel color scheme and playful design meet my expectations? So I'm going to say, yes, I love the design. Next, can you add a Replit database to actually save the data? And this is something that's really nice. So there's some tools that have a database integrated. There's other tools that you need to connect with Supabase or another external database. But it's really nice in this case that Replit has it all integrated in one. So it says we've created a database, pretty cool, manage it here. So if I click that, we can see the actual database. And what's cool about Replit is that the databases are backed by Neon. And Neon is actually a company that some vibe coding tool you would connect to and have to do it separately, create a Neon account. With Replit, you don't have to create a Neon account. It's all doing it for you. But this is a database that technically you're not locked into Replit. It's not some proprietary database that Replit has created. It is actually a database through Neon, but it's all set up through Replit, really integrated, so you don't have to worry about anything with setting it up. And then I can see here under my data, it just created one table right now for tasks. And then as I add tasks, I assume they're going to get saved there. So it added that. How does it work? Let's add and test it out. So let's say, again, go to the gym and we'll add a date, add the task. So here it is. Here's the task. Let's go back to the database and then refresh. And then now that task is actually saved to the database, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to say this works great. Awesome. The next thing that I want to do is add user authentication. Authentication means how can a user sign in and actually have their own to-do list. And this is the number 4 thing that you need to know about Replit is that user authentication is also built in. So you don't have to worry about building this from scratch or having another service connected. There's something called Replit Auth, which allows you to have authentication directly inside of Replit. So this is really powerful, and I'm excited to show you what this looks like once the agent completes this. Something cool about the Replit agent, as you can see here, is that it can review its work and debug itself automatically. This is what I was referring to in the beginning of the video when I talked about how Replit was very agentic, meaning it can work on its own and review its code and make changes on its own. This is something that I think is really powerful and really helpful. So here we are. It created a full landing page for our user authentication and sign in and sign up functionality. I'm really impressed with this, that not only did it create that functionality, but it knew that we would also need a landing page that logged out users would see. I think it also did a really nice job with the design, with even the copy. I think it did a really nice job. I also like how it has the CNN in action section. So let's say start my journey. Let's click this and test it out. Okay, so the most accurate Replit auth testing open in incognito or private window. I actually really like this. This is something that sometimes I get stuck with other vibe coding tools when I'm testing in the browser or in this editor. So let's do this in a new incognito tab. So here we are. Let's test it out. So here we go. It's telling us what it needs. You can continue with either email or all of this, and it has all of this built in, which is pretty cool. Login secured by Replit. So in our case, why don't we just log in with email and see how that works? And let's create an account. And it's asking me to verify my email. So let's do that real quick. And I verified my email. And then here we are in the test environment. On the top, it says it's a temporary development preview. It's not for public use and to deploy it for secure sharing, but for development, this works totally fine. So what needs to be done? Again, let's say go to the gym. I'll add a date. I'll add task. It has log out set right there. And then here's the task. Pretty cool. It even did this at the bottom. And then if I refresh the page, the task is still there. And if we go back to the database, let's refresh it. We can see now we have users, sessions, and tasks. And then under task, we can see there's a user ID, which is a reference to that user that I just created. So that part is all working correctly. And I'm pretty impressed. It's doing this all basically in one shot. On the first try, it's getting it correct. And these are things that are super important, like getting authentication correct. You don't want to be stuck in like a loop trying to get that right over and over again. So that brings me to the 5th thing that you need to know about Replit when you're getting started, which is security and deployment. And I put those hand in hand because you don't want to deploy your app until you know it's secure. So there's a few different things you can do here. The first thing is if we go to all tools, Replit has something called security scanner. So I'm going to click that. And it just ran the scan and it says no vulnerabilities found, ready to deploy, go back to deployment. So this is just a really cool feature that Replit has built in. You also could ask the agent, say, hey, I'm about to deploy. Please review all the code. Is there anything I should be concerned about? Also a smart thing to do. But let's go back to deployments. And here it's just deployments here. And then on the top, we just have this cool environment where you can go through the different tabs. But let's do autoscale and let's set up my deployment. Now, what's really nice about autoscale is it's automatically going to scale from 0 to any level of demand. So this means that Replit is something that you can use in live production for apps that could have many users. And you can also do it for apps that have no users. If you have a lot of users, it's going to scale up and it's going to scale down to very few users as well. So let's set up the deployment. You can choose what you want. In our case, let's just do 2 machines for now. It really depends on how much traffic you're going to have, but in our case, like we're not going to have any traffic. It's just a test. But let's approve. We will set it up and deploy. And our app is now deployed. Replit will give you a URL. So anyone on the internet can now access this app and users can log in and use this app. So if you follow those 5 steps, you now know the most important things that you need to know to start building with Replit. I hope that you found this useful. Be sure to leave a comment below and let me know if Replit is something that you could see yourself using, what you think of it compared to other tools, and click the link in the description to go to Replit yourself and start with a free account. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more free content like this, and we'll see you in the next video.